What is it that actually tips people into true learning? We know how to educate people up here, but how do we shift people into their potential? And we have had examples of that in shed loads over this summer, haven't we? With the Olympians and all the things that they achieved, and particularly the thing that inspired me most was the Paralympians. I don't know if other people felt the same, but watching what they did, just extraordinary. It just so happens that I have a Paralympian in my extended family. And just to tell you a bit about Jude and what she achieved, this must have been taken at the very beginning when they were practicing, because by the end she is considerably slimmer. I have to tell you, she wouldn't like that I used that photograph of her at all. Jude was born with one leg shorter than the other. And between the age of 1 and 16, she had 21 horrendous operations to break her thigh bone and put in this desperate metal contraption that stood out to about here. And they literally, at regular intervals, turned the screw to widen the gap between the broken bone to encourage it to grow into that space. It was desperate. It was absolutely desperate. When she was 16, they sat her down with her parents and said, "It hasn't worked. And we've got 3 choices now. We can try it again, but we don't hold out much hope. You can live with a built-up shoe, or we'll amputate below the knee." Imagine being faced with that when you're 16. Her parents very rightly gave her the choice. And if you think about 16, what you were like then, what were the things you wanted? You wanted to look like everybody else. You wanted to wear shoes. She wanted to wear shoes. So she went for the amputation. Very, very brave. Can you imagine making those decisions? But it's that sort of challenge that gets us moving in life. Hopefully not as bad as Jude had to have it, but we have seen what people do. Do you see the photographs of that armless archer? Just absolutely extraordinary what we can do when we have to. The other place we see it a lot at the moment is the X Factor. You may not be X Factor freaks. I'm sorry. I like to watch the X Factor. But what I often think about, what about those people when they get turned away? Worst of all, what about those that go to the auditions and not only are they turned away, they're laughed at? How do you come back from that? And I think some of them never will. They'll never overcome that. Some of them will just lock it away, pretend it's never happened, and some of them will use it extremely well. And it's those that really take it away as a challenge to how am I going to get over this? How am I going to make it something good in my life that I was laughed at by Simon Cowell? It's hard to imagine, isn't it? And if any of you read the materials that I sent out and the blog that I wrote when I was starting to really look at this and looked at myself, was an experience that I lived through, we lived through, where we had to deal with a situation that was threatening everything we held dear. And we stood to lose our home, to lose everything. It's all in the blog, so I won't get into it here. But again, now, finally, after 15 years, I can stand here and say that was the making of me. And if that hadn't happened, horrendous as it was, I would not be standing here now talking to you. It was the challenge that pushed me out of my comfort zone and made me find out more about myself. And that's what we have to find the way to do in business, alongside of all of the training and development work that we know how to do. We also need to know how to bring people right up against the edge of their comfort zone so that they tip over. They have to stand at the abyss, look into their potential and trust they're going to fly. And we have to create the environment where they can do that. And that's what we're going to be talking about today.